All right, let's do it. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Center for Teaching Excellence. I'm Augie Grant. I have the pleasure of directing CTE. It is a pleasure to welcome your speaker today. Dow Hammond is the Assistive Technology Coordinator for the Office of Student Disability Services. Dow is one of our own. He is a Gamecock who decided he never wanted to leave. So we welcomed him back, and he has spent the last 10 years in that capacity. I have here that he has built his passion around digital accessibility. You're going to see evidence of that passion over the next hour or so. What he does is he works with USC instructors, faculty, with any staff who need it, to expand their awareness of digital accessibility, usability, inclusion, and what's most important for us from the teaching perspective, universal design. So Dow likes working with students, and he also advises the student organization of the Delta Alpha Pi Honor Society. So I give you a person who not only has great passion, but a great message. Dow Hammond.
All right, well, thank you very much. You make it easy for me as far as my plan of introduction. So I've, as you said, 10 years. It's hard to believe. I started here back in 2010, and this January will be the start of my 10th year. And I've been with Disability Resource Center here at USC for that entire time. I initially came in, I was hired to edit and redesign their website as I graduated with IT and really enjoyed developing, designing websites. What I didn't know at that time was accessibility. And so throughout this job, I had gained so much knowledge and awareness myself of accessibility, the reason for it, and how it helps really all of us. And so as he just mentioned, my passion of digital accessibility, it's gone past just web design, as it now applies to Word documents and PowerPoint slides like we'll be discussing today, as PDF files as well. So let's take a look at our lineup here. So I'm going to go over a little bit of terminology just to kind of set the ground, and then look at some statistics and facts, the top best practices of document accessibility, and then we'll go into Microsoft Word, more detail about how to make your Word documents more accessible. Then Microsoft PowerPoint, additional best practices in addition to those top three that I want you all to remember. And then accessibility checking tools. And the checking tools apply to the handouts that I've already provided. And then we'll look at some resources that you can refer to gain even more knowledge and awareness of all of this. So starting off with this terminology, digital accessibility, part of the title of this presentation. Digital accessibility, and I'll just read it to you, ability of a website, mobile application, or electronic document to be easily navigated and understood by a wide range of users. I want to point that out, wide range of users, basically everybody, and then comma, including those users who have visual, auditory, motor, and cognitive disabilities. Skipping back to that wide range of users, that goes along with our next term here, Universal Design for Learning, UDL, which is the framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people. And this is based on scientific studies, scientific insights into how we as humans learn. And I have up there a screen reader as well, because I'll refer to that term throughout this presentation multiple times. A screen reader, also known or can be called at times text-to-speech device, which is a program used for visual impairments or those with cognitive disorders. Okay. So quickly, statistics and facts. This slide here is really going to be the only slide that I'm pointing out and focus fully on those with disabilities, because I want to keep in your mind this is for many users. This is for everybody. But disability itself, it was an interesting fact that I found that disability is the largest minority group here in America. With the multiple sources I looked at, 10 to 20% range, according to the sources I took or reviewed. But what I saw is closer, more leaning towards 20%. If you think of that, here at this university, large university with the amount of students all of us serve and teach, that's a big number. That's thousands of students. Many college students do not register for disability accommodations. So like with our department, the Student Disability Resource Center, we range 2,000 to 3,000 students, closer to 3,000 students. Many college students do not register for us to accommodate them. So you can think of at least doubling that number that I just provided. And most disabilities are, as seen in quotes there, invisible disabilities. What this means is it's easy to think of somebody in a wheelchair with a disability. Another visible disability would be someone with a broken arm or leg. Then we have those that are blind, using a guide dog possibly. But then there's all the rest. The majority of this, large majority of the students that we serve deal with, as shown as examples here, cognitive or psychiatric disabilities, disorders. Okay, so looking at the top 3 of best practices for accessible documents, Word, PowerPoint, slides. This is what I want you to focus on the most to get started with, is headings, alternative text, and links. Going with headings. At the top of each of your document, it should already have a title. If it doesn't have a title, I encourage you to create an appropriate title for whatever document it is that you're providing, whether this is in-person class, whether this is a hybrid class, or whether this is a fully online course. If you're providing these files through Blackboard to where they are digital files, do include a heading 1 level. In Word, they're called styles. We'll look into that a little later. And then from there, just go in a logical order. This would include heading 2, heading 3 for other subtitles. Benefit of headings with Word is this leads to quicker navigation. So 2 features within Word that are very nice is when you have structured your document appropriately, you can automatically just create a table of contents within seconds. That's a great feature, especially for longer documents that you provide. Having a table of contents for anybody is nice to be able to know that page that topic is on, to where they can click on it and skip to that part of the document. That goes right along with the navigation pane that can be used. Even if you don't have a table of contents at the top of your document, you're able to open up this navigation pane that shows up on the top, and you have a list of all the headings within your document, and you can click on that as well, and that automatically skips to that part of the document. And I do want to say, while I'm talking, I may be talking too quick. If you have any questions, please feel free to stop me and ask a question. Certainly want you to feel comfortable with that, and I don't want you to think of it as a dumb question, because there are no dumb questions, and if you're thinking it, probably one other person is thinking it as well. So now to alternative text, or short as alt text, is text-based, accurate and equivalent description of an image. If you're providing an image on your document, on your PowerPoint slides, you need to provide alternative text. The reason for that, somebody that is visually impaired, is blind, is dependent on a screen reader. If that image, especially if it's a valuable image that they need to know, you need to provide alt text. That way, that screen reader will be able to pull that description and read it to the user, the student. Keep these as short and simple when possible. Sometimes you will have more complex images that may need a longer description. But with that, you can provide equivalent information in surrounding text. That may even simplify it for you to where you have the image, and then any text above or below that image, you can include just appropriate text that would associate with that image. And then the million-dollar question: what description is the correct description? So that's why alt text I kind of think of as it's the easiest fix, but the hardest fix at the same time, because mainly for more complex images, it may be difficult to think, well, what do I put? So think of, while you're writing out that alt text, what's the purpose of it being there? Why is it in this Word document or PowerPoint slide? What's the purpose? And then with that purpose, how can you describe it to best convey its meaning or that purpose? Yes?
When you're putting information, say, on a Word document or whatever, and if you save it and upload it as a PDF, does all the alt text disappear, or is that saved in a PDF document where they can access that information as well, if we don't want our students to edit or modify the document?
Well, I will tell you, that's a great question, and I will answer that a little later. That's on one of the slides as far as saving your Word document or PowerPoint slides, PowerPoint file as a PDF. So I'll show that a little later. Great thinking, because yes, I am seeing that growing with more departments, more schools providing PDF files instead of just regular document files. Anything else? Yes?
Does your office have any strong stance on whether an instructor or professor distributes their PowerPoint to students? For people who have invisible disabilities, it might be easier for them to have the actual slideshow. And I know that some professors have the philosophy that you have to come to class to get the information, and they won't post presentations. And I'm asking if your office has any opinion on that.
So if the information is only provided in class, not provided online, but you're asking this as far as a student that is registered with our department, that would be a discussion with a specific student's coordinator, to which it may become an accommodation to which you will need to provide that file for the student.
Is the onus on the student to make that request then?
If that comes up in conversation with the coordinator as a concern, that would make it easier, yes, that. But I do want to point out that it's also good for the instructor or the student and or the student to just have a conversation about this, okay? Yeah. All right. So as far as links, number 3 of best practices, provide meaningful descriptive text links. So if we skip down to number 3, we see this long random letter number link. When seeing that, there's very little value or meaning to that. So just on any user, just user experience or interface of this, anybody looking at that cannot really pull much from that at all. And so skipping back now up to number 1, providing meaningful descriptive text links. So I have find more of the toughest toys for large dogs. I have a large dog that owns our place, so I figured I'll make that the theme as far as pictures go. But so instead of using that link in number 3, you it would be best to just create that text in place of providing the actual link. We'll go over that in detail. I just wanted to at least throw that out there, get that in your mind. But now with number 2, as far as links, avoid providing redundant, ambiguous links. Just thinking of websites, it's often seen that click here, click here, click here, click here. What I want to show you, and it's probably too small for you to be able to read. Are you able to see this red light here? Okay. So this here is an example of a screen reading program to which they're able to pull out of context a list of links on a Word document, PowerPoint slide, or website. This is an example that I pulled from a website, but it works the same with your Word documents and other class content, to which they can then pull out a list of the links. So the start of this is good. Questions and answers, applying, cost and aid, academics, student life. But then here in the middle, we're seeing 85 Earl equals HTTPS percent 3A, blah, blah, blah. So where in the world does that take them? That's why you want to, instead of putting the link, make that text a link. So focus on value and meaning with your link. So yeah, when links are only links, not meaningful linked text, out of context, it is of little value. Oh, and I did, as I was pointing out, click here, click here. Here on the bottom, it shows unlock with compass, unlock with compass. So where does that go? Okay, so let's start looking in deeper into Microsoft Word. So as far as headings, number 1. So this is an example here of, we'll say, the title of your document, Digital Accessibility 101. The nice thing about Word is it already has multiple preset styles that you can use for your document. Because it's there for you to use, it doesn't mean you have to use it as far as for your entire document. I don't use styles to design my entire documents. Where I'm going with this is what you can do is if you already have, especially an existing document that you want to adjust to make more accessible, you can highlight, such as your title of the document. Highlight it, right-click, excuse me, right-click on heading 1 style, and then as you see on that drop menu here, update heading 1 to match selection. So what that means is the style that you've already created for Digital Accessibility 101, or your title of whatever document it is, whatever content, update heading 1 to match selection. That means your title is not going to change in any way. Instead, that's going to transform heading 1 to the font style, font face that you have for your title. As soon as heading 1 is set, it is set for that document. And then when you get to one of your heading 2 sections of the document, that's when you can right-click on heading 2, update heading 2 to match selection. And then when you have that done, you don't need to, the next heading 2 part of your document that you'd be using, you wouldn't need to right-click anymore. Simply just left-click on heading 2, and it will automatically set it as an actual heading, okay? With the way I'm putting this, are you understanding what I'm meaning? Do you have any questions? Yes?
Just to check, because it's the side of doing headings that drives me utterly insane, is it changing the font and changing everything? Is this all true for like the right-click stuff? Is this all true for Word on a Mac, or is this just Word on Windows?
I use it on my
Okay.
Mac.
Cool, and this,
So-
the right-click stuff works? Cool.
And I'm glad you said that, because my next, no, let's see. No, I didn't include it for Mac versions, but you should have, there's some handouts. If you don't have the handouts, I've provided you all cheat sheets that you can refer to, and there's some for Mac in there. And so just go by those steps. But yeah, but thanks for asking. And with that said, I am curious, I'd like to know, how many of you, if you have a Mac computer, how many of you are using Mac computers regularly? So seeing about 6 to 7, and then I guess the rest of you regularly use PC. Yeah, so the majority of you are with PC, but I know Mac is growing, especially with students I've seen. Okay. And so, going along with the benefits, when you have structured your document with headings, and I had mentioned the navigation pane. So the steps to get to a navigation pane, by tapping on the View tab at the top, at the top of the screen, and just check navigation pane there. That will pull up that example I have to the right of that first image, showing navigations and shows headings. And so, I mean, especially with those longer documents you may have, click on one of those and it will just bring you to that part of the document. And then as far as table of contents, by going to the References tab within your Word document, you can click on the Table of Contents button, and then that will go ahead and insert the table of contents. You'll have multiple types, styles, designs of the table of contents. Okay, so alt text, like I said earlier, sticking with the theme of a pup. Of course, I wouldn't doubt, not that I wouldn't doubt, I am sure your images that you will be providing are much more complex than a cute picture of a little dog. But we're going to use this as an example and expand. So as a reminder, alt text is text-based, accurate, and equivalent description of an image. So as far as adding alt text within a Word document, by right-clicking on it, you can then go to the Format Picture option. And that will bring up the settings of, it will bring up that pane related to formatting the picture. And then you would choose the alt text option there and just put appropriate description in that box. You're welcome to add content and title as well, but that's not necessary. A screen reader would read both if you do have a title. The main thing is appropriate, accurate description in the description box. Okay, so as far as links, this is how, if you already have a document that has a long link that you want to change to regular text, by highlighting that link and right-click on it, you can then choose the hyperlink option on the pop-up menu. And then that would bring up this screen here to where you are able to type in appropriate text in that text to display field. And then it will show the address that you highlighted. Of course, you want to make sure that is hasn't changed and that you got all of the links, so it is pointing to the right place. So as far as Mac computer, very similar. You would right-click on it, or if it works with a two-finger click, to display that pop-up menu, you'd go to Hyperlink, and then same thing, text to display, put the appropriate text there, and make sure that link address is correct. So with data tables in Word, with that said, I do want to point out that I encourage you to not use tables to lay out like a design. I mean, it's just a random thought that came to mind, but I encourage you to not use that to make it easier to shape your document. None of you may be doing that, but that just came to mind, figured I'd throw that out there. But data tables, especially if you have longer tables that go to multiple pages, click on that repeat header rows option. The reason for that is with each new page, it's going to continue to include that header row, which is good really for anybody, because you don't want to have to remember, especially if you're just scrolling through there and you see these data items, this information, well, shoot, what column was this? So for anybody, like I said, repeat header rows. And to answer a question that was asked a little earlier, when you have your Word document structured appropriately with headings, when you've adjusted your links, and any other accessibility focused features that you want to include, then you can save it as a PDF. The way to do that with your Word document, just go to the File tab and Save As. Within that Save As type, in there should be PDF. And for Mac users, it would be basically the same thing. Now, when you change that type, that file format to a PDF, what you'd see appear is the additional options button within that window. Click on that option button, and if you're not able to read this, what I have circled there is document structure tags for accessibility. By default, that should be checked, but it's good to always check. It'll take just a few seconds to check these options. Make sure document structure tags for accessibility is checked. So what that means, when you hit OK, you hit save. During that conversion portion of saving it as a PDF, it's going to roll over tags that you have created within your Word document. So does that answer your question?
Yeah, so before, and I don't know if it's a Mac thing, before when I've done that, it said if it was maybe a 20 or 30 page document, where I had tags and stuff in it, it said that the document was too large to use for accessibility mode, and it wouldn't let me save it in accessibility mode. It would only let it save as a printable PDF. So I don't know if.
Okay. I appreciate you letting me know that. Right now, I don't have a quick answer for you. Immediately, what I was thinking while you were explaining that is breaking that larger document down in portions and save them as PDF to possibly avoid that issue. Of course, that then takes more time, and we're all tight on time. Go ahead.
Well, no, it was just it was meant to be a manual for a specific task where it had pictures and step-by-step instructions for the students. So by breaking it up, it's no longer, I don't know.
Did you have issues like this with multiple files, or is this just one?
I've had it with two that are about that size, and it's
Okay.
mainly when there's photo images in there as well, is when I've had that issue. So, but I had alt text for my photos, so then when I went to save it, that all goes away.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
So if you say your recommendation,
Yeah.
save it to smaller files, would you be able to merge it all into one big file?
You would be, especially if you have Adobe Acrobat.
I've done that before.
Okay.
Yeah,
I haven't had it,
right.
but I'm a Windows user, so I'm not sure.
I'll try that. Thank you.
Well, with her talking about this, have any of the others of you had an experience like this when saving a Word document to a PDF? Okay. You got me curious, and so I'm gonna just try to develop my own longer document with images, with alt text, and see what happens. And if I can get an answer, figure it out, I will pass it to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions while we're here? Okay. Or any questions of anything else that we've covered so far? All right. So let's take a look at PowerPoint now. Starting off with the alt text. All right, so here we are with this cute little puppy again. Focused on text-based accurate and equivalent description of an image. Now, what I meant to point out earlier as far as images. So what I did point out earlier was this image is just more of a decorative image, just a space filler. What I want you to think of is just picture what's an image that you would use on your document, on your PowerPoint. Even an image like this, what if you had to analyze this picture of this puppy? So it wouldn't then just be a cute puppy, it would then be background blue bowl with a white dog looking to the right or left, and then each part of that description or that image. That's what whenever you're going to write some alt text, don't just write it and move on. Think of the purpose that image is there, and then take it from there. As far as the steps of how to add this alt text, it's basically the same steps as with Word. Just right-clicking on it, format picture, and then go to the description and provide it there. Hyperlinks for PowerPoint, also basically the same steps. Whenever you have a link, especially if it's an actual link and you want to put text in place of it, so it is, you know immediately when viewing it where it's going to take you, what it's for. You can just right-click on it, go to Hyperlink, and then complete those fields of text to display and check the address that it's correct. And again, basically the same with the Mac version. Two-finger click it to get that drop menu and choose Edit Hyperlink. Now, one thing that's different with PowerPoint and PowerPoint slides is the reading order. So for a document, a Word document, the reading order is basically from the top to the bottom. It's going to look for those headers, and then it's going to the next line. It's going left to right. With PowerPoint slides, you can have a box of text. You may have an image. You may have multiple items within this one slide. What you want to check, though, is it in the appropriate order, which you can't really tell by looking at the slide itself. But you want to have it in the appropriate order of a screen reader to read it in the appropriate order. So and I don't know why Microsoft made it this way, but it's kind of like the reverse order for the reading order. So I'll just start off by going to the Home tab and clicking on Arrange, and then there at the bottom of that drop menu, select Pane. By then clicking on Select Pane, that'll show the order of the content of that slide. So you want to see title field first, and then if the text of that slide is appropriate to be second, that would be the second one from the bottom. If you have pictures, what order that should be, and then focus on that. And so that way, when a screen reader is reading through these slides, it will read it in that order.
So are you saying that every time we'll have to go in and reorder it? That's not clear.
Okay, yeah, and thanks for asking. So I'll start off with answering that as, if at all possible, stick with the design that you choose to use with a PowerPoint file. Okay.
Right, but
Go
it's
ahead.
not clear. It's saying your PowerPoint slide says the reading order is listed in reverse from the bottom to the top. Is that the way that the screen reader needs to read it, or do we need to go in and put title at the top, content placeholder 2, then picture 3, and then picture 5?
Yeah, and well, I'm sorry for the confusion, and that's part of why Microsoft kind of chose to do that, because that itself is confusing, as we regularly look at the top as the beginning, the bottom as the end. But in this case, so what I'm meaning by the reading order is listed in reverse. So that example that I'm showing on the screen here, Title 1, that's the appropriate order. So you want the title of your slide at the bottom, and then whatever should be read next or recognized next should be next to the last one. The rest of you understand what I'm meaning with that? Okay.
If you have an audio file on a PowerPoint slide, will it read the slide, like is it in an order where it would automatically play it? Or how would you go about that? Because I know sometimes you have to click on it, but if a student with a visual impairment is reading it, they might not be able to find it and click on it. So is there a way to have it automatically, after, when it would get to that order, start playing the audio for that?
Good question. I would encourage you not to set it to play automatically. If you are using the audio tool that PowerPoint provides, the controls should be accessible to where they would be able to find that play button and be able to play it. Okay? Because if it's playing immediately while they are trying to listen to other content, that can be a conflict, helping or preventing them from better understanding the information. Okay? What I encourage you to do as well, which I didn't include within this presentation, but going along with that, I encourage you, if any of you are providing a video embedded within the slide or embedded within a Word document, I encourage you to provide an external link to where it can be opened in possibly YouTube, or this audio file, if it's stored or pulled from a website, providing that external link to where they can click on that, that may raise the chance of it being more accessible. Okay. And then as far as data tables with PowerPoints, this is different with PowerPoints compared to Word documents, to where you can have more complex tables within Word documents. I encourage you, if you want to include tables on a presentation file, a PowerPoint, keep it as simple as possible. If you need to break it down to multiple slides, that may be the better way to go. Or if you could provide that within just text. Those are things to think about. But do avoid copy and pasting tables from one source of information to the slide. Instead, create the table with the tools of PowerPoint to make it most accessible and usable by really any viewer of your file. So let's look at additional best practices. Captioning. Captioning, in my opinion, should be in that top 3. The reason I didn't include it there is because this videos is not regularly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but would not be regularly part of your documents or presentations. But I definitely wanted to put this here as number 4, captioning transcription. If you are providing audio or if you are providing a video, I greatly encourage you, this is a must, that you provide captioning for that video or a transcript for audio. Think past those with a disability. One thing that I've learned myself is the more senses we're able to use when learning new things, learning anything, the more senses that we're able to use, the better it's going to stick in our head, the better we will understand it and remember. So as far as videos, I encourage you, if you're not already using YouTube, to move your videos into YouTube. YouTube has a great tool. Its automated captioning has greatly improved over the years, as it was just fun to have it add its own captioning and then read the captioning and laugh, because it was just so far off some of the random words that would go in there. But the accuracy is greatly improved, but you don't want to stop there, because it's still not going to be 100% correct, which can cause confusion for anybody using it. It will be one long run-on sentence, which itself can cause confusion, and it may leave out some more visual pieces of the video that should be included in your captioning. So go to YouTube. They provide this great option that you can take full advantage of. If you have any questions to learn more about this, feel free to contact me. Sufficient color contrast. A great source with this to check your colors is going to the WebAIM contrast checker. In most cases, I would doubt you're having that issue, especially if most of your content is just black and white on your documents. But if you have multiple colors, if you have different background colors, it's best to check that, because people that are colorblind or have some type of reading disorder, that can be confusing. And just for us, anybody, because as some of us I've seen as I've looked around at you all throughout this presentation, some of us are using some assistive technology right now. I am. This pair of glasses, you see? So please don't think of these things to be only for people with a disability. This helps everybody. Us with trouble reading, especially if we don't have our glasses on. If there is conflict with the colors, that can make it more difficult to read. Avoid color alone to convey meaning. If for some reason you are using a color for content within your document. So let's say you change the color to green for the meaning of whatever you have assigned to that color. Instead of just putting that color, also put a meaning with it. Because of those that are colorblind, I think I said it already, that can be an issue. Font size and typeface. Use sans serif fonts to better ease the ability to read the content. Again, this applies to everybody. It's just easier to read that type of font than some that are more decorative. Just keep it basic. And in Word and PowerPoint, their default fonts already fall in this category. And do aim to keep it at least 12 points as far as size or larger. With PowerPoint slides, that wouldn't be a concern in most cases. And then as far as numbered or bulleted lists, don't just use a dash for your list. Instead, use the tools that come with PowerPoint or Word by clicking on that button of bullets or that button of numbered lists. That will help a screen reader to recognize it as a list and then make it easier for them to understand why is it reading this way. Okay. So as you see, I've got A11-1. Part of the reason I did that was I couldn't fit that whole title of this page on one line. So I figured I'm going to take advantage of this. A11-1, that's just short for accessibility. 11 stands for the number of characters in that word. But with that said, that kind of points us right to what I have up there for number 1. Blackboard has, and the department here at USC has done a great job with this new feature. I say new, but it's actually been around now for over a year. This accessibility enhancement tool, also called Ally by the company, is an integrated tool that analyzes documents, PowerPoints, PDF files that you upload and will provide accessibility guidance. So what that means is whenever you upload it, it's going to automatically run a check on this file. And then you would see like a gauge of where it falls. Going back to colors, as you know, red is usually not a color you want to see as far as aiming to good. So it would show like a percent of the accuracy or the accessibility piece of your document. And so with me just quickly describing that, how many of you are familiar with this tool now that's been with Blackboard? Okay, so I see a few hands. On this document, and I'm going to try to, I aim to share this file with you after we finish up here today. But on this document at the end, as far as links that I provide, I can point you to more information about Ally to learn about this so you can take advantage of this, as it's a great, great tool that's easy for us to access. So then we'll go into, right now, Word Accessibility Checker and PowerPoint Accessibility Tool. So as far as Word, for Windows, it is a little different with Windows and Mac here. For Windows, if you go to the File tab and then click on Info up top, you have that button there that is the check for issues, and within there is check accessibility. By clicking on that, that will just point out any issues related to accessibility that it has found within your Word document. Now, I will point out, as any automated tool, that's not going to find everything. So that's why I encourage you to the information that I've provided, what we've gone over today, to just keep that in your mind and start blending it in when you are creating new files, when you are editing existing files. Keep all this in mind, but at the same time, take advantage of this Word tool by checking accessibility. So for anything that you might have overlooked, it can help point that out. So in the Mac version, you would choose the Review tab, and in there is the Check Accessibility button. It's basically the same with the PowerPoints. By going to File, Info, and then Check for Issues, that's where you can check or click on Check Accessibility. And it's the same with the Mac using PowerPoint. And so this is bringing us close to the end now. See, so these are some very important links that I encourage you to print and save somewhere, because these are great resources to refer to. Going back to the Blackboard Accessibility Enhancement Ally, by clicking on the information for students, this will go over some of the ways that they can convert. That's part of how accessibility enhancement works, is any content that you provide, students have the option to convert your file to other types. So if it's a PDF, they could convert it to a document or an HTML file. Because for some people that like it read out loud, then it would be easier using a Word document. So we'll be able to convert it back to similar to your Word document. This is also great because one of the options too is converting it to an audio file. For some longer documents that you may be providing on Blackboard, this can be good for any student that has to take quite a ride, whether coming to school or going somewhere. That makes it possible for them to listen to that content that you're providing instead of reading it. So something to keep in mind. And that's also, let me point that out, as far as alt text, that's where alt text comes into play here as well, because it will then recognize that content and include that in that audio. Okay. WebAIM, I referred to that earlier with that color contrast link. As this website, as shown in its title, it's focused on web accessibility. It does provide a lot of valuable guidance and information related to Word documents, PowerPoint slides, PDF files. So take a look at that sometime. The accessibility cheat sheets, I've already provided handouts to you, but that's the link to where there's even more. There's one for PDF, there's one for videos, and some others. And then is going back to when I said alt text can be the easiest fix, but the toughest fix at the same time because of figuring out what description to use. This diagram center may be able to help you find those answers and provide guidance of the best way of describing more complex images. So visit that sometime and become familiar with it because that is a great resource to take advantage of. And yes, that brings us to the end. I'm going to leave those links up for now, make sure you all are able to at least get these. But with that, does anybody have any questions related to anything that I've gone over? Okay. Well, I do want to point out that all of this information that I've shared, whether you're teaching or working with students just in person or in class, or whether you are providing a hybrid class to where you teach in person and online, or if your class is only online class. No matter what type of class you're providing, you need to focus on any files that you provide online to your students They need to be accessible for the better of all of us. And so I'll just close it with that, and I'll put up this last screen, so you're welcome to write down my email. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. And I thank you all for joining us here today, and I look forward to hearing from you anytime. Thank you.